everybody, and welcome to this special on the Solar Eclipse in Virgo that happens on the 21st of September. So now I'm going to talk about what the new moon represents in astrology and what the spiritual and psychological meanings are, and just the things we can do. So all in all, in astrology, the new moon is a catalyst, it's the pulse, it's the ground that can provide us with personal growth and transformation if we are willing to, take the new beginnings. This energy wants us to do. It wants us to take fresh starts. This could even mean restarting a project or relationship for some of you. And it is also a powerful tool for manifesting your goals and intentions. So it marks the perfect opportunity for self-reflection, intention setting, and as the moon disappears from the view, because we don't really see the moon at the time of the new moon, it invites us to turn inward, reflecting on our desires and whether they align with our goals, our life purpose and our true authentic self. And by actively engaging in the new moon energy, we can promote more clarity and focus within ourselves, and using tools such as journaling, meditation or creating vision boards, which I'll go a bit more in depth about later, can really help us focus. Now remember, tools like journaling, meditation and vision boards, they help us recognize our emotions, let go of our emotions, visually see what we want to manifest, but we have to take practical action, daily steps to bring desired reality into reality. So yeah, we can take this attentional approach, and this allows us to plant the seeds of our goals, nurturing them in the fertile ground of our subconscious mind. So it puts a spotlight on our thoughts. A lot of the time we have these thought patterns that we need to release, and the only way to release them is to take time to work through our psychological, emotional and spiritual traumas. The new moon also symbolises the cyclical nature of life. We have spring, then we have summer, then we have autumn, and then we have winter. So it reminds us that just as the moon phases transition, from new to waxing gibbous and full moon and crescent moon, so can our circumstances and mindset. So we can change. We feel that we can't change because we've been programmed to conform, and a lot of people say, oh, once you pass a certain age, or people like you don't do this or that, but it's up to you what you do with your life. So it encourages us to release our limiting beliefs and past disappointments, making way for personal transformation on all levels by reprogramming our subconscious mind, so we can seek out tools. Speakers like James Allen, Florence Goverson, Marcia Rosenberg, Scott and Peck, Neville Goddard, even Manly P. Hall, who else, Louise Hay, Tara Brach, Jiddu Christopher Murphy, Anthony DeMello have helped me reprogram my subconscious mind. So you search out the tools that help you, because that's part of it. You can listen to them while you're driving, while you're sleeping. You'd be amazed what the mind picks up, and how slowly doing things to change the negative thoughts in your subconscious mind can help you to let go of what no longer serves you and create a space for new opportunities to enter your life if you take care of it on the mind, body and soul level. So taking care of your mind by working through your traumas, taking care of your body by eating right, sleeping right, eating the right foods for you, and taking care of your soul by engaging in some sort of spiritual practice. And if we're willing to do this, we can empower ourselves to take charge of our growth and align with the universe's natural rhythm rhythms. So spiritually, as I said, it wants us to confront innermost thoughts, feelings and goals without the distractions of the external world. So taking some time out, even if it's just 5 minutes to be alone in your car, in your room, in your home, if you live alone, if people are out. And by embracing the stillness and darkness of the new moon, we can dig into our subconscious, uncovering hidden truths and recognize desires. And through this self-reflection, we can also uncover ways to face our hidden truths, use our hidden talents, and to meet our unrecognized repressed desires. It serves as a pathway to understanding our soul's purpose and aligning our life with it. And as we increase our connection to our inner wisdom, practices such as lighting candles, intention setting ceremonies, and even guided visualizations or energy clearing rituals can help facilitate and support you gain a deeper sense of self-awareness on your spiritual journey. And as you honour this sacred time, you may find that the new moon not only illuminates your aspirations but also reveals the obstacles that get in the way of your growth. And a lot of the time, we are the ones, our mindset, our unwillingness to let go, our need to stay in our comfort zones are often the big reasons we don't live the lives we want, or the toxic ways we relate to ourselves and others, or the toxic ways we allow our other people to relate to us. And again, this is not about victim blaming or anything like that. A lot of the time we can get in these coercive relationships and situationships that we can find it hard to get out with, but by reaching out to maybe organisations that can help you, and I know they're limited, but by really making a plan, especially if you are in a coercive relationship, and make sure you put it in a safe space on how you can get out of the circumstances you are in that is stopping you from being empowered. So ultimately, the new moon is about, it's new, but it's also dark, and darkness is not something we normally, put together with, newness, but it wants us to embrace the duality and create a sense of balance within ourselves between our strengths and weaknesses, light and dark, and to try and build some more self-worth, confidence and clarity into our lives, or to continue to build it if you're already working on that. So ultimately, it's a sacred time of renewal where we can develop, cultivate more self-awareness, love, forgiveness, acceptance, and create a profound connection to the universe and our spirit, our higher consciousness. Talking more about the esoteric, the mundane interpretations of the new moon, it wants us to, reflect on what we wish to cultivate in our life, write down specific goals and desires, and, create a tangible reminder of your intentions, reinforcing your commitment to pursuing them as the moon waxes through its stages, encourages us to release the past and let go of habits that no longer serve you. And this process of decluttering your emotional, spiritual and psychological baggage can create space for you to have more renewed passion about the life that you're living, or the life you want to create for yourself. So, choose a ritual that resonates with you and take some time out for quiet reflection, and create an environment, that's right, productive for you to be able to bring more practicality and stability into your life. More about the esoteric meanings. Symbolically, it wants us to connect with our inner self and the universe, your higher power, whatever you call it, using visualization or intuitive readings from others or from yourself, and you're just sitting there with yourself and allowing yourself to access hidden knowledge and guidance that enriches your spiritual journey. And as the new moon represents on the esoteric level the darkness of the womb A lot of us were born in a womb. It invites us to explore the depths of our psyche, creating self-discovery and inner wisdom. You can use tools such as tarot cards, crystals or astrology to enhance your understanding of this phase, and you may consider selecting a specific tarot card or any other card that resonates with your intentions, or use crystals that align with new beginnings like clear quartz, which I can recommend, or moonstone. And it just wants us to take these moments of quiet reflection to listen to our intuition and uncover insights that may have previously eluded you, you may have ignored or you may have not been able to grasp before. So by deepening your spiritual practice in this way, you can align yourself with the natural rhythms of the cosmos, and ultimately it wants you to engage in things that can help you and connect with yourself. So any form of meditation such as mindfulness, breath work, mantra can help you, center your thoughts and emotions. Also, lighting a candle or using incense to purify your area, allowing the ambience to support your focus. You can write your intentions on paper and express them clearly and positively, and this act not only nullifies your desires but also reinforces your commitment to manifest them in coming weeks. So by visualizing the energy of the new moon and see it enveloping you, surrounding you, protecting you, comforting you, and allowing you to have more motivation. And some of you may choose to repeat affirmations that align with your intentions, but remember, you need to also put practical actions into any tool that you are using. It's not just about visualizing or affirming, it's about, creating a life, changing your life habits so you can provide the right ground for these things to manifest, and by engaging in mindful rituals you can transform your life as you start, not only this new journey, but a new phase of your life, if you wish so. So yeah, that's the end of, looking at what the new moon means from all angles. So it's sort of like the universe is literally giving us the keys to unlock our most, refined, authentic, bougie, if you want to say, put together version of ourselves, right? So it is an average new moon because it is a solar eclipse. We just had the lunar eclipse, right? And we have Mercury as well as Saturn and Neptune really, influencing this solar eclipse as well. So I'm going to get into all that good stuff. So it's a solar new moon partial eclipse in Virgo with Mercury conjunction to it. Of course, it's a solar eclipse, so the moon is conjunct to Mercury and Sun in this dance as well. It's exact at 8:42 p.m. GMT time. That's when it's the eclipse, and the new moon is exact at 8:54 p.m. So it's in the earth element, so it's about taking care, being focused, paying attention to the details, precision and divine perfection and karmic refinement, change, adjustment. And the moon and the sun are both in the 4th to 5th degrees of Virgo, and we also have the sun making an opposition to Saturn, a trine to Uranus and an opposition to Neptune, and we have the sun in the 5th degree of Virgo, the moon's in the 4th degree and Mercury's in the 12th. So it's not the tightest conjunction, but it's a conjunction nevertheless. And the Sabian symbols involved are a coloured child playing with white children, this is where the moon is, a man dreaming of fairies, this is where the sun is, and a bride with her veil snatched away, that's where Mercury is. So yeah, in terms of special astrological events, we have a T-square with the midheaven in Capricorn, we have another T-square as well, which I'll talk about in a while, we have a grand trine, and we also have 2 yods as well, so a lot going on. And of course, I'm going to go in depth and say what all of this means, but this is just a summary version. And in terms of the body parts involved in the Sabian symbology and what we need to pay attention to at the time of this solar eclipse, the ascending colon, the transverse colon, and the abdominal aorta. So everything to do with our like abs and our sort of like waist, right, our letting go, our bowel movements, our colon, you know. So it wants us to think about new routines that can help our life better, perfect our processes without being perfect, because sometimes the Virgo energy can make us too overly focused on perfectionism, right? It's about taking day-to-day steps and being careful in your daily routine, and also think about your karmic pattern completion. What stuff that you do day to day are you ready to let go of? So this solar eclipse in Virgo represents what I like to call the divine editor moment, when the universe hands you the red pen and asks you to perfect your life's manuscript. So the tight opposition to Saturn shows that we're dealing with some serious astrological business, and Saturn's in retrograde, so it's wanting us to go inward anyway. And Mercury's conjunction increases the mental care that we're going to need, and this is going to create a perfect storm of analytical thinking, rational clarity, and we should see ourselves, or the universe is giving us the chance, because you know it's about how we use these energies consciously, making choices, right, and giving us a chance to see solutions where others only see problems, and giving us, you know, solutions to problems that we've been trying to solve for a while. So we've got Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, Pluto and Uranus all in retrograde. So this is a deeply karmic energy, asking us to revisit, rethink, refine our past, and you know, any plans for the future, and giving us a chance to ultimately perfect patterns, change patterns we've been working on for lifetimes. So it's like the universe is saying, right then, let's get this absolutely spot on this time, shall we? So yeah, we're getting a chance to do things over. So yeah, it's a absolutely great time for new beginnings that require meticulous, careful attention to detail and practical real life application, you know, doing those day-to-day steps to make the things you want to come true, right? And unlike the fiery rush of an Aquarius eclipse or the emotional intensity of a Cancer eclipse, the Virgo solar eclipse is asking us to slow down, check our work twice, and make sure every component is perfectly aligned before we launch our new chapter. And the conjunction with Mercury creates what I call the master class person, create a builder energy. You're not just building something new, you're making it, designing it, crafting it with the precision and the care of, say, you know, a Swiss watchmaker. Sometimes in that small little watch there can be over 100 different parts, all made to work perfectly in sync. So it's about allowing your shadow self and your strengths and weaknesses to work together, you know, and to work with your life wins, you know, the things you're doing right in life, and you know, the obstacles that you want to overcome. So this eclipse doesn't favour grand gestures or dramatic decorations, you know. Virgo's very precise energy. It wants us to have a quiet revolution of daily excellence. So it's about looking at your day-to-day habits and the things you want to change there. That's the key, you know, energy vibe of this eclipse, and this is what we can do with it over the coming 6 months, you know, as this energy lasts up into the next solar eclipse in 2026, right? So it's about, you know, the subtle magic of the right systems that work flawlessly, and, you know, deep next level satisfaction of getting something absolutely right by making that strategic plan right. And as I said, what makes this eclipse particularly powerful is the simultaneous opposition to both Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. Saturn demands structure, routine and discipline, and Neptune dissolves, melts boundaries and inspires dreams. So normally these would create tension. But in this eclipse, they're asking you to dream with precision, care and structure and routine, and especially when it comes to using your intuition and your creativity as well. It's like you're being asked to build a cathedral or any building that's both architecturally sound and spiritually transcendent. So taking care of our spiritual and our material needs. And the trine to Uranus adds an element of innovative stability, where we can have insights that actually we can put into action in the real world. And it isn't about revolutionary change for its sake, because sometimes Uranus energy can just make us rebel for the sake of it, right? It's about finding genuinely better ways to do things that serve both practical needs and a higher purpose. And the trine to Pluto in Capricorns shows these refinements will have lasting transformational impact on your life structure, routines, and for manifestation work, this eclipse rewards patience and practical application. Rather than asking the universe for massive changes, ask for the wisdom to see what needs fine-tuning, the skill to make these adjustments perfectly, and the discernment, good BS vibes detector in to know when something isn't ready to launch or go to head with, or when you need to stop something that you previously was doing as well. So this eclipse favours the tortoise over the hare, the editor over the first draft writer, the master chef over the enthusiastic amateur. And this eclipse happens during Virgo season, when the natural world is demonstrating perfect timing, harvest time, and when months of careful tending finally produce their fruit. So this solar eclipse asks, what have you been cultivating, developing, creating that's ready to harvest? What systems, routines in your life need upgrading, and what daily practices need change, right? So yeah, that's the summary version, and now I'm going to go in depth and look at it at all angles, talking more about the aspects, the retrogrades, how we can apply it to our day-to-day life more, the rituals, how it can affect our relationships and all that good stuff. Yeah. So in terms of the exact precise timing of this eclipse, the initial prenumbral shadow touches Earth on the 21st of September at 6:30 p.m. GMT time. Then we get to the maximum eclipse point at 8:43 p.m. GMT time, and the epileptic alignment happens at 8:55 p.m. and the equatorial alignment is reached at 9:51 p.m. and the final preamble shadow leaves Earth at 10:54 p.m. GMT time. So yeah, that's everything you need to know if you're watching it from the UK. So during these times, pretty much from 6 till 11 p.m. on the 21st is good to start rituals, whatever you want to do, and we'll talk a bit about the rituals you can do in a while. So we've got the sun in Virgo, as I said, and this brings the energy of late summer wisdom, the perfect moment when the garden is ready for harvest, when all the careful tending and attention to detail finally pays off. This isn't the explosive energy of midsummer, it's the satisfied energy of work well done and timing perfectly collaborated. The sun here asks us to appreciate the beauty of efficiency, the elegance of systems, routines that work, and the deep next level satisfaction of mastery over life's practical details. The moon in Virgo during this eclipse creates an emotional need for order, usefulness and meaningful contribution. This isn't about perfectionism for the sake of it, it's about the deep emotional satisfaction that comes from being genuinely helpful, from creating something that serves a real purpose, from knowing that your efforts make a tangible difference. The moon here whispers that true emotional security comes from competence, reliability, and the quiet confidence of knowing you can handle whatever life presents. Then we've got Mercury conjuncting both luminaries, the sun and the moon. So it supercharges mental clarity, analytical ability and communication precision. With Mercury conjuncting both the sun and moon, it's like having a computer upgrade for your brain. Suddenly you can see patterns, connections and solutions that were invisible before. So it's really good for intellectual work, thinking, resolving problems. Mercury here doesn't just want to think, it wants us to think carefully, usefully, to communicate effectively, to solve problems that actually matter. This is the energy of the brilliant strategist, the insightful editor, the teacher who can explain complex concepts with perfect clarity. So, Saturn's type opposition creates necessary tension, the pressure that transforms coal into diamonds. Saturn in Pisces in retrograde asks us to revisit our spiritual routines, our emotional boundaries and our relationship with both discipline and compassion. This opposition makes sure that whatever we're building with this eclipse energy will be both practically sound and spiritually meaningful. So when these energies work together, they create the perfect conditions for what I call conscious evolution, growth that's both deep, next level, profound and practical, transformation that actually improves daily life rather than just creating dramatic change. So this eclipse combination is telling us, let's not just change for the sake of change. Let's evolve, grow with precision, care, purpose and practical wisdom. So ultimately this solar eclipse energy, we're coming down into the last 3 months of the year now. We've had 9 months. Maybe you haven't reached goals. It's given us that final, push. We're having autumn equinox as well, taking us up to the winter solstice. So we've got 3 solid months to really, put in the work. Sometimes we can think, it's been 10 years I've been meaning to finish this book or do this and start that, and we have AI now, and there's always going to be something that says, it's my chance has gone now because AI can do jobs and all of this, and other tools and other people are better than me. They already got 1 million followers. But as you'll hear me say across all these audios, I believe everyone's got their niche. Everybody has got their core audience base who will only listen to them, so it's never too late. So in terms of how we can really practically use this eclipse energy in real life, we can establish morning routines that support our goals, create organized environments that enhance, increase productivity, focus on small incremental progress improvement rather than dramatic change, use practical skills to serve others and build community, establish health routines that actually work for your lifestyle. Sometimes we'll watch something online, listen to a podcast and think, I'm going to follow the host's morning routine or lifestyle. No, you have to find a lifestyle that works for you, and this is why we can fail sometimes, because we try to be like others. What we're meant to do is to listen to them, take their ideas and tailor it to our needs, change it to our needs. We can, in terms of our professional lives, refine our approach to work for greater efficiency and meaning, establish better boundaries between work and personal time, focus on quality over quantity, use your natural talents to serve others through your work, create systems, routines that support both productivity and well-being, improve communication through clear, practical expression, establish routines that support relationship balance, harmony, focus on practical acts of service rather than big grand gestures, create systems, routines that support both individual growth and relationship health, use practical problem solving to confront relationship challenges. So now I'm just going to talk about the astronomical mechanics of a solar eclipse. So a solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the earth and the sun, creating a shadow that temporarily blocks the sun's light. The eclipse begins at 8:42 p.m. as I said, and the new moon follows at 8 54, and that's a 12-minute gap. What's astronomically significant? This brief window represents a moment of perfect alignment when the moon's orbital path, Earth's position, and the sun's apparent path create an astrological moment of, careful attention that mirrors, Virgo's energy perfectly. So the path of the eclipse and, its length, because it happens at different times across, the 21st and the 22nd of September, affecting different regions at different times. And this astronomical dance reflects the Virgo principle that timing is everything. Not just being in the right place, but being there at exactly the right moment with exactly the right preparation. The moon's size during this eclipse creates either a partial or total eclipse, and we've got a partial eclipse in the UK. Some people are going to have a total eclipse, but the energetic impact of this eclipse is still global. So when the moon casts its shadow, right, and this blocks the conscious awareness, which is represented by the sun, and the sun's blocked by the unconscious patterns, which is represented by the moon in astrology, and this creates a moment when new programs can be installed in our psychic operating system. And from an eclipse science perspective, this event demonstrates the mathematical precision and care of celestial mechanics and gravitational relationships and astrological timing that have been, collaborated over billions of years. And this mirrors the Virgo energy of everything happens exactly when and how it's supposed to, with no wasted motion or random chance. So every experience, even though it can be painful in life, were meant to happen. And it can be, I'm not victim blaming or nothing like that, and I'm not saying it in such a way that, to put blame or fault, but what Virgo wants us to do is to find the good, or at least learn to live with the horrible things that may have happened to us, so we can live and learn from and have a happy life, because sometimes the past robs us of everything, and this eclipse is reminding us that we can move forward, and there may not be no reason, but everything happens exactly when and how it's supposed to. So we can find comfort in moving forward and healing. Now, as I said, we've got 5 major planets spinning backwards, right? It's an optical illusion, and really just swinging side to side. And I call this the Astrological Review Committee, and it wants us to reconsider, as I said in the introduction, refine and perfect our approach to life's fundamental areas, such as our thoughts, daily habits, our relationships, our work routines, and every routine, exercise routine, eating routine. So Saturn is retrograde in the 5th degree of Pisces, and I'm going to talk deeper about what this 5th degree means. But ultimately, the wise old soul wants us to revisit spiritual lessons with practical wisdom, examining our relationship with both routine and surrender, thinking about how we've been too rigid in our spiritual practices, or too wishy-washy, too superficial in our practical responsibilities. And it wants us to think about what spiritual beliefs need updating, and it increases our ability to see where we've been self-sabotaging through either excessive discipline or a complete lack of boundaries. And it wants us to find that sweet spot between spiritual flow and practical responsibility. Neptune is retrograde in the 7th degree of Pisces as well, and this creates a fascinating vibe, dynamic at the time of this eclipse. Again, it wants us to review our dreams, our goals, our illusions and spiritual ideas. Some of us may get first time clarity. We may experience our first awakening during this solar eclipse. It wants us once again to think about what we may have thought of spiritual guidance thinking, is it just wishful thinking? And what we may have dismissed as impossible may actually be divinely inspired. So it helps us separate genuine intuition from projection, false beliefs from real beliefs, and real spiritual growth from spiritual bypassing, which can be like, oh, I don't need to work or do anything else, the universe gives, it never takes away, without actually doing any of the physical work. Yes, affirmations do work with practical action, so it's getting real about your spiritual practice and seeing if it's actually helping you grow, because that's what it's meant to do. Chiron is retrograde in Aries, and this can lead to authentic vulnerability. It brings up old wounds about leadership, independence and self-assertion, asking us, where have you been leading from, our woundedness rather than wisdom? And it wants us to integrate the Chironic lessons of transforming our deepest wounds into our greatest source of strength and authentic leadership. Pluto's retrograde in Capricorn in the 8th degree, and it wants us to dig deep, excavate the foundations of our daily routines and rebuild from the bottom up. So it wants us to deeply review how we use power or don't use our power in life, how we respond to authority, how we may abuse our authority, how we may neglect our authority, and review our life routines as well. And it wants us to kind of let go and rebuild things that are not working. And it isn't destruction for the sake of it. Think of it as archaeological work, digging, carefully excavating outdated power dynamics to build something more authentic and sustainable. So yeah, Uranus is retrograde in the 8th degree of Taurus, and it wants us to change everything by perfecting the basics. So our sleep routine, our eating routine, exercising, the way we pay our bills, the day-to-day things that make our big dreams a reality. So thinking about our resources, our values and our physical world, relationships, wanting us to bring newness to these areas. And it wants us not to have dramatic upheaval, but perfecting the basics through slow day-to-day change. And it wants us to see which revolutionary changes are actually sustainable improvements, because sometimes we make drastic changes. We say we're going on a diet or a new exercise regime, we stick to it for a week or two and then we forget it. So it wants us to really do the things that work, giving us an astrological reset moment, allowing for that deep transformation. And in terms of the mythology and cultural significance, Virgo is seen as the harvest goddess, and ancient people celebrated the successful completion of the agricultural cycle, because it's happening in September, right? We're going into October, and especially in the UK, that's the end of the farming season. Well, not the end, but certain fruits and vegetables can't be planted now to the spring, or they won't bloom again to the spring, but there's plenty of winter crops we can grow, like pumpkins and kale. But yeah, so it represents the moment when careful planning and diligent work finally produce sustenance for the winter months, the work he did in the spring and the summer. And the Celtic harvest festivals, particularly those honouring Bridget as the goddess of craftsmanship and healing, resonate strongly with this eclipse energy. So Bridget's association is the place where raw materials are transformed into useful tools through precision, application of heat, pressure and skill. And this captures Virgo's energy, right, of practical transformation. And Roman mythology associated Virgo with Ceres, the goddess of agriculture and grain, who taught humanity the arts of sowing, planting, tending and harvesting. And this eclipse in Virgo reconnects us with this ancient wisdom about timing, patience and the rewards of dedicated service to the natural order. And in Vedic astrology, eclipses are considered times when the astrological serpent Rahu temporarily swallows the sun or moon, creating a moment of karmic reckoning. And the Virgo eclipse particularly emphasizes the concept of dharma, right action, proper duty, and living in harmony with natural law. And in terms of modern psychological interpretations, particularly Jungian approaches see eclipses as moments when the shadow, our unconscious, temporarily obscures, hides the ego, the conscious, and this allows for the integration of previously rejected aspects of self. So that's why it's good for transformation. And in Virgo, this shadow work focuses on perfectionism, criticism, and the difference between healthy standards and impossible ideals. So getting real about what we can really achieve and the timings as well. Sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves, or we procrastinate, or we believe we're at the wrong age, our time's gone. And I say, well, as long as you're breathing, you can try, right? And I know there's illnesses and other things that stop us, but it's all about getting to know yourself and your temperament so you can become your best self as well. So now I'm going to talk about the aspects in more depth that the sun and the moon are making at the time of this solar eclipse new moon in Virgo. So the sun, moon and Mercury are conjunction at 7.39 orb applying. So again, as I said, it allows us to express ideas that we've just been thinking about. The sun makes opposition to the Saturn and the moon, and it's at 0.15 applying. So this is the tightest aspect. So this is the one that's really influencing us, and Saturn's in retrograde, right? So it creates that necessary tension that we need so we can grow. So that tension between expanding, growing, and limitation, restriction, challenges, obstacles, dreams and reality. And it makes sure that whatever we're building has the proper structure, routine and sustainability. So it's giving us that power, that need to meet the needs of Virgo, which is to make a proper plan, slow, daily steps rather than big gestures. The sun and the moon's making a trine to Uranus. This is a supportive energy that allows us to have breakthrough, and especially when it comes to our work, and especially when, giving us insights that we can use in our practical day-to-day life. And it reminds us that change comes through inspiration rather than disruption. The sun and the moon makes an opposition to Neptune, and this creates the tension between practical reality and spiritual idealism, and it asks us to make our dreams practical and our reality sacred. So again, it's about seeing the spiritual in the day-to-day, to see every act as meaningful, even the simple ones, that is helping you to reach a goal. So your sleep habit, eating habit, seeing everything as a sort of like, having a purpose. The sun and the moon makes a trine to Pluto. So again, it supports us transforming things, giving us that deep transformational power that increases rather than destroys our existing, routines. And it again reminds us that deep change happens through gradual improvement rather than dramatic upheaval, drastic changes, burning our house completely down. But don't get me wrong, some of you may have to do that. But just to remind you that change doesn't have to come at once, and not to compare your journey to anyone else's. That's the main message of this eclipse, to think about the day-to-day habits that can help you reach your goals. The sun and the moon are making a semi-sextile to Mars. So this is nice sort of energy that brings gentle motivation and the ability to take action from a place of balance rather than aggression. And the sun and the moon makes a square to the midheaven, and again this creates tension, and this time it's between our personal needs and professional responsibilities. And although we're going to have this tension, it can lead to us integrating the needs of both seamlessly, and everything being able to swim along nicely. Okay, so as I said in the introduction, we have a few aspect patterns happening. So I didn't mention the stellium, but we have a stellium between the sun, moon and Virgo. A stellium in astrology refers to a powerful cluster of planets that are closely grouped together in the same sign, house or degree orb. So if a planet's in the 29th degree of Gemini, and then we've got one planet in the 7th degree of Cancer, because those planets, let's say Venus in the 29th degree of Gemini and Saturn in the 7th degree of Cancer, they can still be in a stellium because they are within a degree orb range, and that's how stellium can happen when one planet's in one sign and another's in another sign. That's because they're still within that 10 degree conjunction range that we need for stellium. So stellium can have positive and negative implications, like all things in life and astrology. So positively, a stellium increases the traits associated with the planets involved, the degree orbs involved, or the house involved, creating a strong focus on those specific areas of our lives. It can signify intense determination, creativity, and give a deep sense of purpose in pursuing our goals, going after what we want. Negatively, it can bring challenges, a lot of challenges. It can amplify the negatives of all the planets, houses, or degree orbs involved, leading to an overwhelming amount of energy in these areas, and this can cause stress because of the imbalance of too much of one energy surging on you, and so we may feel more pressure to live up to high expectations, or struggle with integrating the different energies represented by the planets within a transiting stellium. So this 3-point stellium is like having an astrological magnifying glass focused on Virgo's transformational themes, and we have all of these 3 major players, Mercury being the fastest moving planet, Sun and Moon doing the most changes throughout the astrological month. So the Sun brings identity transformation, the Moon delivers emotional change, restructuring, and Mercury adds mental clarity and communication breakthroughs. And what makes this particularly potent is Mercury's involvement. It rules Virgo, so we've got the signs ruling planets supercharging their eclipse energy, and this means practical manifestation ability are off the charts. So our ability to change our daily habits and routines, thought patterns, really, really powerful energy for change as we go into the last 3 months of the year. Whatever intentions you set up during this eclipse window will have staying power, and I've noticed that Virgo stelliums during eclipses often bring sudden clarity about life purpose, especially regarding service, your health, personal hygiene, daily routines, as these energies work in harmony and really give us deep insights about how we can change our life for maximum efficiency, productivity, and soul satisfaction and material satisfaction as well. And then we've got the grand trine. So now I'm going to talk about what a grand trine is in astrology, the positives and negatives of a transiting grand trine. So a grand trine in astrology is when 3 planets are in an equilateral triangle, and they're each approximately 122 degrees apart. And this configuration creates a harmonious flow of energy between the 3 planets involved, enchanting their respective qualities. So positively, it can increase our creativity and productivity, and it can bring more emotional balance and stability into our life, especially in challenging times. So it's a nice, easy energy to work with. It can bring increased intuition and insight, so we can gain deeper insights into our life path and decisions, and this can help us make more informed choices and just become more balanced and stable within as well. But negatively, we can lack motivation and complacency because trine energy comes easy, it's harmonious, not challenging, and this can cause us to be passive and unmotivated in going after our goals. This is why a lot of individuals with a lot of trines in their chart, trine and harmonious aspects like sextiles cannot use them because everything can come so easily. They're not aware and they can miss their opportunities, thinking they'll always come. There can also be an overemphasis on our comfort zone, and we can rely too heavily on what we know rather than newness, and this can make us be stagnant and miss opportunities. Again, the Sun, Mercury and the Moon in Virgo, Pluto in Capricorn and Uranus in Taurus at a 36 orb, so quite strong. It's what I call a manifestation superhighway, and this cosmic energy is flowing like a well-oiled machine, bringing practical magic to our fingertips, because you know Earth is Earth energy, right? So this creates a self-reinforcing cycle of practical transformation. Pluto in Capricorn has been dismantling old structures, routines, and Uranus in Taurus revolutionizes our values and resources. And the eclipse stellium in Virgo brings the perfect channel for manifesting those deep changes into tangible, touchable reality. And with the 36% orb tightness, it's buzzing with potential. And I've seen similar patterns during major life restructuring periods, career changes, relationships changes, health transformations, and financial breakthrough. So I know that this energy can really bring breakthrough for you in these areas if you apply it, and these changes will have lasting substance, you know, not just temporary changes, if you're willing to, you know, do the day-to-day work to make it so. You can find it easy to implement changes that you've been trying to do for years, you know, and the resistance you might normally encounter simply melts away. It's like the universe is saying, right then, let's get this sorted properly, you know. We've got 2 T-squares, as I said. Now I'm going to talk about what a T-square is in astrology and the positives and negatives of a transiting T-square. So a T-square in astrology is when 3 or more planets. Normally some people count points. I will only count a point such as the moon's north node if it was like conjunct a planet like Venus at the same degree, something like that in a T-square. I wouldn't necessarily include it on its own. So yeah, a T-square is when 3 or more planets form a right-angled triangle in the transit chart, and this configuration involves 2 planets being involved each other, creating tension, and a third planet squares both of the opposing planets, and this is why it's called like a T-square, because it looks like a T. And the positives of a transiting T-square include increased motivation for growth and change, opportunities for self-awareness and transformation, and the potential for breakthroughs in difficult situations. It can act as a catalyst for personal development and push us outside of our comfort zones. Negatively, we can struggle with decision making due to the conflicting energies. We can experience a heightened emotional intensity, leading to stress or anxiety and challenges in communication and our relationships. And it can also kind of bring eternal conflict to some of us as well, because of the external obstacles that come, or the internal thoughts of unresolved psychological, emotional and spiritual trauma that can come up. And dealing with these issues internally or externally that come up can require patience and resilience to overcome. So we've got the first with Mars in Libra, Chiron retrograde in Aries, and the midheaven in Capricorn. And this allows us, Mars in Libra wants us to take diplomatic action, bring balance, and this is what this eclipse wants us to do. Chiron in retrograde is bringing up old wounds around independence and assertiveness, and the midheaven in Capricorn becomes the focus point where these energies must find expression. So some of you may change your career, update your skills, focus on healing, because the midheaven in Capricorn, that's what it wants us to do. And with Chiron retrograde, it can trigger past life memories or childhood patterns around leadership and authority, and we can just find ourselves confronting situations where we may need to assert ourselves professionally whilst maintaining harmony in relationships. And I observed that when Chiron's retrograde in an eclipse, it brings opportunities disguised as challenges. So we may go through some obstacles, some hard times, but the key is to recognise that whatever career or authority energetic conflicts arise, there are actually chances to heal ancient wounds around personal power. So to integrate and deal with this energy, pay close attention to any workplace dynamics or career decisions that feel emotionally charged. They're likely to connect to deeper healing themes that need confronting for your soul's evolution, for you to grow. The second T-square involving Jupiter in Gemini, Chiron retrograde again in Aries, and then Midhaven in Capricorn. So Jupiter's here now, and Jupiter in Gemini wants us to explore multiple options and gather information, whilst Chiron retrograde in Aries is about processing wounds around independence and asserting ourselves, and it shows that healing comes when we expand our knowledge, gain new knowledge, get new skills, especially communication skills. Some of you may feel like it's time for you to start to teach, to write or say experience right now in ways that help others, while at the same time healing your own authority and other wounds, and the tension will build gradually because of the 17% orb tightness, and we can just find ourselves drawn to courses, workshops or communication opportunities that initially seemed unrelated to our healing journey but actually served as perfect vehicles for integration. So watch for opportunities to mentor others or say your story, and the healing component, Chiron combined with the expansion energy Jupiter shows that your wounds become your wisdom, particularly in professional environments and contexts, So, start that channel, start that podcast. You may think, I was going to do it in January. It's only 3 months. Come on, I believe in you. So whatever it is you've been putting off, this solar eclipse is supporting us, guys, to get it done. So we've also got 2 yods. These are called Finger of Gods in astrology. So a transiting yod is also known as the Finger of God in astrology, and this aspect is formed when 2 planets are sextile, so that's 60 degrees apart, and both of these planets make a quincunx, which is 150 degrees to a third planet. So 2 planets sextile, both of those planets make a quincunx to another third planet, or planets if that third planet is conjunct to another planet. So this creates a narrow egg-lognated triangle shape in the transiting chart, and a transiting yod can increase our awareness of our purpose or calling. It can give us opportunities for growth and transformation, and it's a potent energy that really allows us to break free from old patterns that no longer serve you, and or habits, so it can act as a cosmic push towards self-discovery and personal development, and this can lead to a deeper understanding of your true path in life. It can bring about unexpected blessings or connections that push you towards your goals. But negatively, it can sometimes be overwhelming energy, and confusing to understand, or the push and pause, because the quincunx is a struggle, so you push and pull. You've got 2 planets that are like, yeah, we love each other, and then they make this quincunx to the third planet and they're not loving each other as much anymore, so it requires us to confront deep-seated fears and insecurities, and it can be challenging and emotionally draining. It can also, as I said, be confusing, leading to uncertainty and doubt about our choices, and which direction should we go, and all of that as well. And also, the challenges triggered by a transiting yod can disrupt our existing routines and our relationships, and it can just cause internal turbulence and changes. And it's essential to approach this energy with an open mind and a willingness to embrace change as resisting transformation, whatever it is that comes up, at the time of a transiting yod, whatever comes to your attention. You may be like, oh no, I don't want to change, but resisting the change can just lead to extended feelings of discomfort and stagnation, just staying in the same old routine. So the yod's like, okay, I know this thing has been comforting, or these things, and maybe you needed these things at one stage in your life, but now it's time to let go and move on to something new. So yeah, the first yard is between Venus in Leo, Pluto in Capricorn and Neptune in Pisces at a 14%, and this yard is creating what I call destiny pressure around love, creativity and transformation. Venus in Leo is at the apex, and we've got Pluto and Neptune as the hands, so to speak, and this Venus in Leo wants grand romantic gestures and creative self-expression. Even if you're single, grand romantic gestures to yourself. And because Venus is receiving quinquance aspects from both Pluto's transformational power and Neptune's spiritual dissolution, this aspect pattern, indicates that your creative expression or relationship patterns need to undergo profound spiritual transformation, and the eclipse energy increases this, making it impossible to ignore the soul's call for authentic, creative or romantic expression. And the 14% orb tightness means the yard is quite focused and insistent. And I noticed that Venus, Pluto, Neptune yards during eclipses often bring encounters with soulmates, karmic things happen, or creative projects that feel destined but require letting go of old patterns first to start that project or to carry on with this soulmate connection. So pay attention to any impulses, especially creative one or relationship attractions that feel simultaneously exciting and slightly overwhelming. They're likely connecting to your soul's deeper evolutionary agenda. And we have the second jaunt between Mars, Saturn, Neptune and Uranus, and this is a 9% orb, and it's intriguing because it involves both Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, creating a double influence from the same sign. So yeah, we've got Uranus in Taurus, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, Mars in Libra at the apex, the head of the yard, and Saturn and Neptune and Uranus in Taurus are providing the hands. So Mars in Libra wants us to take diplomatic action whilst receiving pressure from Saturn and Neptune's spiritual discipline and Uranus's revolutionary energy. And this configuration wants us to make sure that our actions and decisions during this eclipse are in alignment with both our spiritual principles and revolutionary changes. It's not enough to people please and maintain harmony, which is Mars in Libra behaviour. You need to take action that serves both your spiritual growth and creates lasting change. And the 9% orb tightness makes this yard extremely precise and demanding. This cosmic pressure won't let you ignore it, basically, and the need to spiritually align and break old patterns. So any decisions that you make during this eclipse period should be evaluated through the lens of, does this serve my spiritual evolution and create positive change for others? The universe is demanding authentic action that serves the greater good. And in terms of the karmic symphony of these aspect patterns, when I look at all of these patterns together, I see like a great astrological symphony, dance, designed to catapult us into our next evolutionary phase. The Virgo stellium provides the practical foundation, the Grand Trine creates the manifestation pathway, the T-square generates the necessary tension for growth, and the yards provide the spiritual pressure for authentic transformation. So in terms of special healing formula, manifestation healing formula, it's essentially offering us the keys, the magic, the formula for turning our deepest wounds into our greatest gifts while manifesting them in practical earthly ways. Because of all the Virgo energy, it's karma resolution meets manifestation mastery. And with this level of aspect complexity, expect the eclipse effects to unfold over the next 6 months. That's how long the eclipse energy lasts anyway. The initial insights may come quite quickly, but the practical implementation, you putting them into daily practice, right, making sure you know that you will fail many times, but to keep on getting back up after each, 4, as change will occur in waves for most of us, right? And each aspect pattern activates at different time. So it's a cosmic initiation into a new level of authentic power. It's not just an eclipse. It serves both our soul's evolution and the greater good. And these aspect patterns are guaranteeing that any changes that you make will be both spiritually aligned and practically successful. But I recommend you keeping a journal during the next 6 months, as the insights that you may come into through dreams, conversations and anything else, right, might arrive in layers that only make complete sense when you view them as a whole pattern over time. So this is absolutely brilliant astrological timing for anyone ready to step into their authentic power while also serving something greater than themselves. Ultimately, this eclipse is, practical healing energy and attention to details, and the details are: what daily habits do I need to do to bring my dreams into reality? What thoughts do I need to think more of? What relationships I need to let go? What new skills I need to learn? What sleep patterns, eating patterns, exercising patterns do I need to do to give myself the energy and the rest? And what fun things, like if you like gaming, reading books, jumping on rebounders, going for walks, mountain biking, climbing trees or mountains, whatever it is you love to do, making sure you've got that work-life balance. There's a time for play, there's a time for rest, there's a time for work, and there's a time to, just let your hair out and get wild, like Vibes Cortel sings. So now I'm going to talk about the Sabian symbols evolved in this solar eclipse in Virgo, and how they interact with all the meanings that I've already given you, but the added meanings that they give and stuff. So as I said, we've got the moon in the 4th degree of Virgo, and the Sabian symbol is a person of colour, but in the times these Sabian degrees were written in verbatim, a coloured child playing with white children. There's that Sabian symbol, and it rules the ascending colon, and it's about breaking down artificial barriers through innocent and natural connection. So this symbol represents, letting go of artificial social barriers through the natural innocence of childhood. And a lot of the times when we was children, we didn't see colour, did we? We just played with someone because we liked them or they lived in the neighbourhood. And at the time of this eclipse, we're being asked to examine where we've created unnecessary divisions in our lives between work and play, sacred and mundane, self and other. It increases our ability to see beyond surface differences to the fundamental unity beneath. And Jung would recognise this as the integration of the shadow through play rather than struggle. So positively, it gives us first time opportunities to heal divisions in our lives through approaching them with childlike curiosity rather than adult prejudgment. The manifestation potential lies in creating inclusive environments where different aspects of ourselves can coexist naturally, and we can use this eclipse to build bridges, create teamwork in projects, and approach conflicts with genuine interest rather than defensive positioning. The shadow here involves unconscious bias, subtle exclusion, and the tendency to characterize rather than connect. And this eclipse brings up, for a lot of you, resistance to integrate parts of ourselves where we've kept them separate from each other, and these parts may demand recognition now, demand that we integrate them. And the challenge is maintaining innocence while acknowledging the real impact of historical and cultural divisions, and integration requires both childlike openness and mature responsibility. So the ascending colon connection solves this connection affects our ability to absorb nutrients and eliminate waste on all levels, psychologically, physically, emotionally and spiritually. So we need to pay attention to our digestive health during this eclipse, but also notice what we are digesting mentally and emotionally, what we're thinking, what we're doing, what we're feeling. This is an excellent time for gentle detoxification and improving nutrient absorption through better food combining, and in terms of rituals that you can create, ceremonies that bring together different aspects of our life, where you invite your inner child to collaborate with your inner adult, set up play dates with people from different backgrounds or perspectives, belief systems, religions, use art, music or movement to express integration themes, just listening to different music or watching subtitles in films in a language other than your own. Consider group rituals that celebrate diversity whilst also acknowledging unity, and to focus on colon health with fibre-rich foods, adequate hydration and gentle movement, and consider probiotics to support healthy gut bacteria, and avoid inflammatory foods and excessive processing. Gentle yoga twists and abdominal massage can support optimal functioning during this eclipse. And over the 6-month integration cycle, just notice how doing this affects your ability to, the ability to listen to other people, being open to listening to different music, having different experiences outside of your comfort zone, affects your ability to include others rather than exclude them, to welcome rather than reject people, and track moments where you have naturally bridged differences or when resistance comes up over the next 6 months as well. The goal is developing authentic exclusivity, not forcing artificial harmony, but recognizing genuine connection that's underneath surface differences. So we have the sun in the 5th degree of Virgo, and the sabin symbol is a man dreaming of fairies, and this rules the transverse colon, and the main theme is bridging practical reality with magical possibility through focused imagination. So this symbol represents the integration of practical consciousness with magical thinking, the ability to access otherworldly wisdom whilst remaining grounded in daily reality. So during this eclipse, we're being invited to take dreams and intuition seriously whilst applying practical wisdom to manifest them. The fairy realm traditionally represents the interface between visible and invisible worlds, which is perfect for a Virgo eclipse that asks us to make the mystical practical, and it positively, wants us to combine detailed planning with imaginative reason, using this energy to create practical magic, daily routines that nurture your spirit, work that feels like play, systems, routines that serve both efficiency and enchantment. The key is treating your dreams as valuable data rather than simple fantasies, while applying, care to make them real. In terms of the shadow integration, it involves either dismissing dreams as impractical or getting lost in fantasy without taking action. So we have to watch out for both of them, just thinking, it's just a silly dream, or, just getting too lost in dreams as well. It can also bring up resistance between the practical and mystical. So the challenge is to maintain a connection with magic whilst developing, competence in the material world, and the integration requires both visionary imagination and the development of practical skills. And the transverse colon connection shows this eclipse affects how we process and move through life experiences. Digestive health reflects our ability to extract value from experiences while releasing what no longer serves, paying attention to how different foods, thoughts and activities affect our energy levels and mental clarity. Create bedtime rituals that honour both rest and vision, dream journals, guided visualizations and gentle meditation before sleep. Set up workspaces that include beauty, inspiration and practical efficiency. Use this eclipse to establish daily patterns that feed both your soul and your practical needs. Consider a fairy garden creation as a manifestation practice. Do things, like I said, gentle twisting, stress reduction techniques, having more water, food more rich in fibre, consider how your emotional processing affects digestion and how this eclipse reveals connections between, the stress points in your life, your dreams and digestive health, and herbal teas that support both digestion and dream work like chamomile or peppermint are particularly beneficial right now. And just in terms of integrating this energy, take notice of how the eclipse affects your relationship with dreams, intuition and practical achievement. Track moments when magical thinking increases rather than escapes from practical effectiveness, and the goal is to develop integrated wisdom, assess higher guidance whilst maintaining grounded and competent in your day-to-day life, so paying the bills, doing your daily routine and all the rest of that. Mercury's in the 12th degree of Virgo, and the Sabian symbology is a bride with her veil snatched away, and this rules the abdominal aorta, and the tagline is truth revealed through vulnerability, authentic communication beyond pretense. So this symbol represents the moment when, superficial artifice is stripped away to reveal authentic connection, and Mercury's conjunction with the luminaries, the sun and the moon, increases our ability to communicate with honesty and clarity. The bride traditionally represents the prepared, adorned self, whilst the snatched veil reveals the natural, unadorned truth beneath. This eclipse asks us to communicate from authenticity rather than from what others think or what we think they want to hear, what other people may want us to hear. It wants us to tell the truth. It supports breakthrough communication, having those honest conversations that we've been avoided, and the courage to show up authentically as who you are is important in all relationships, and it brings our attention to that. Use this energy for truth telling that serves healing rather than harm, and the manifestation portal lies in relationships and projects built on genuine rather than projected foundations or lies and deceit. Write, speak or create from your most authentic self. The shadow of this Sabian degree can just make us hide behind false personas or exposing truth in a way that causes unnecessary harm. So speak the truth, but try and I don't want to say be polite with it, because sometimes that's not possible, but try and do it in the way of least harm and respecting others' boundaries. And it can also bring up fear of rejection if others see who you really are. The challenge is to distinguish, tell the difference between protective privacy and defensive hiding, and the integration of this energy requires developing discernment, good BS5 detection about when and how to reveal truth whilst maintaining appropriate boundaries. And the abdominal aorta connection shows that this eclipse wants us to pay attention to our core and our core life force circulation, paying attention to how honesty and authenticity affect your energy levels and overall vitality. It can also bring stress from maintaining false personas, and this may manifest as circulation issues or abdominal tension. And this eclipse supports healing through authentic self-expression and honest communication, creating eclipse ceremonies focus on truth-telling, writing unsent letters, having honest conversations with mirrors, or sharing authentic feelings with trusted friends. Use this eclipse to update your self-presentation in all areas: social media, professional profiles and personal relationships. Consider rituals that symbolically remove masks or veils that you've been wearing, and just doing things that support healthy circulation, like heart exercises, eating healthy foods, and practices that reduce stress around your self-expression. And pay attention to how dishonesty or being authentic affects your physical energy circulation. Do deep breathing exercises and gentle heart opening yoga poses, and this can support optimal functioning during this eclipse. And over the integration cycle, notice how this eclipse affects your communication style and willingness to be authentic authentic, track moments when truth-telling improves rather than complicates relationships, and the goal is to develop honest communication that serves love rather than ego, and speak truth that heals rather than harms, whilst maintaining your authentic voice. And then we've got Mars in the 6th degree of Libra, and the Sabian symbol are the ideals of a man abundantly crystallized, and this rules our pubis, and the essence of this Sabian symbol is balanced action and manifesting our highest vision through teamwork and effort, so ultimately this symbol represents the manifestation of idealistic vision through sustained effort and teamwork, and Mars in Libra asks us to take action from a place of balance, fairness and aesthetic harmony rather than aggression or competition, but also remembering the truth telling that Mercury wants us to do, but doing it allows us to do it in that in that respectful way that I was talking about as well. It supports teamwork in launching projects and moving forward, but negatively we can be passive aggressive in our behaviour and sacrifice our personal needs for false harmony, and it brings up conflicts between our individual desires and collective needs. And integration requires developing the ability to assert personal vision while honouring others' perspectives, taking decisive action whilst maintaining the team working spirit, paying attention to how balanced action affects our core strength and overall vitality. Issues with hip stability and reproductive health can reflect imbalances between assertion and cooperation in your life. So you could create eclipse ceremonies that combine individual vision with team working action and group meditations and partnership goal setting and creative collaborations. Use this eclipse to establish practices that balance personal needs with relationship harmony, creating rituals that honour both individual creativity and collective beauty, and taking care of your core strength, so your hip, your pelvic, the upper legs, your thighs, paying attention to how working with others versus competing affect your physical energy and stability. And the goal is to develop harmonious action, the ability to go after personal goals whilst contributing to collective beauty and fairness as well. Saturn is in the 5th degree of Pisces, and the Sabian symbol is a church bazaar, and this falls the right Kubal boy, and it's about practical service grounded in spiritual community and collective care, and it asks us to integrate our spiritual values, practical service to community needs, and creating a sacred space, bringing together the material and spiritual right through practical service and social connection. The shadow involves us being inflexible in our spiritual beliefs and a lack of practical commitment to spiritual values. We can resist spiritual authority and have difficulty translating spiritual insights into practical action. So the challenge is, us being able to remain spiritually authentic whilst accepting the necessary limitations and responsibilities as well, using this energy to create sustainable routines that serve both our spiritual growth and practical needs. So the goal really is to develop grounded spirituality, accessing higher wisdom whilst maintaining practical competency in community service. Uranus is in the 8th degree of Taurus. The Sabian symbol is a sleigh without snow. This rules the cervical nerves, and the ultimate meaning of this Sabian degree is finding new ways when old methods don't work, and it represents the need for newness and flexibility when circumstances change, and it asks us to examine our relationship with stability, resources and traditional conventional methods. And the sleigh without snow shows that our usual approaches may not work in current conditions. We need to find new ways to move forward that suit the actual experience rather than expectations. So it can have help us receive breakthroughs in our resource management and sustainable practices and problem solving abilities as well, perfect for developing new approaches to old problems through patient experimentation rather than dramatic change. And this is what this eclipse wants us to do, slow change, right? But negatively, in terms of the shadow, we can cling to outdated methods and ways of being in our daily routine and thinking and in our relationships. So we have to be flexible and watch out for impatience because of the slowness of the change that may come. You may want to move fast, but fast change rarely is sustainable, right? So the challenge will be maintaining stability whilst embracing the necessary newness and change. And we integrate this by discerning, telling the difference between what's useful in traditional ways of doing things and getting rid of the things that limit us in terms of traditional ways of thinking and convention. The cervical nerves connection shows that this eclipse affects our ability to communicate between mind and body. So doing things that, increases our flexibility and rituals that challenge traditional rituals and new meditation practices, spiritual practices, daily practices, and doing things that support our cervical nerve health, like neck stretches, ergonomic awareness, sitting right in our chairs, having the right posture when we're walking and stuff like this can help reduce our mental stress and physical tension. And the goal is to develop adaptive stability, the ability to change methods while maintaining core values and practical competence. Neptune is in the 7th degree of Pisces, and this is a cross laying on rocks, is the Sabian symbology. It rules the right talus, and the essence of this symbol is spiritual endurance through grounded faith and practical devotion. So this symbol represents the integration of spiritual devotion with practical endurance, the ability to maintain faith even when circumstances are challenging. It wants us to examine our relationship with spiritual idealism and practical application of faith. And the cross on the rock shows that true spiritual strength comes from grounded mystical understanding in practical reality, being realistic while being ethereal. So it supports developing long-term spiritual practices that can weather, endure practical challenges and changes. Use this energy to create devotional practices that increases rather than escape from practical effectiveness. Perfect for establishing spiritual disciplines that serve both transcendent connection and daily life competence that helps you, pay those bills, look after your work routine, your sleep routine, and all the other things you have to look after, right? Negatively, it can lead to spiritual bypassing in terms of the shadow and rejection of transcendent possibilities, rejection of spirituality and intuitive insights, right? And it can bring up disillusionment with spiritual ideals or difficulty maintaining faith during practical challenges. And the challenge is that we have to try and maintain our spiritual connection whilst accepting material limitations, and this integration requires both transcendent vision and practical wisdom. So we have to pay attention to how spiritual practice and faith impact our physical stability and overall resilience at this time. And the right talus connection, our ankle, affects our ability to maintain balance and forward progress and movement, and it wants us to try and do so despite the challenges that come up. And any ankle issues that come up right now may reflect imbalances between spiritual idealism and practical reality. So creating ceremonies that combine spiritual devotion and practical endurance, meditation followed by physical challenge, prayer combined with service work, or spiritual study that leads to practical application. Use this eclipse to establish practices that sustain both spiritual connection and practical effectiveness. Doing things that look after our ankle health, like balance exercises, wearing the right footwear, and practices that increase our flexibility and stability. flexibility. Paying attention to how spiritual practices affects our physical foundation and ability to navigate, deal with challenges, experiences, and gentle ankle circles and calf stretches can really be good to support our optimal function right now. And the goal is to develop grounded spirituality whilst assessing transcendent wisdom whilst maintaining practical resilience. So Pluto is in the 8th degree of Capricorn, and the Sabian symbology is birds in the house singing happily. So this represents the possibility of finding joy and freedom within existing routines and structures rather than requiring their complete destruction. So this is change that comes slow and finding your peace and happiness even though everything may not be perfect, right? Because Virgo energy can make us seek the perfection, but this eclipse is all about enjoying the perfection in non-perfection, right? It asks us to examine our relationship with power, authority and transformation, and shows that true freedom comes from transforming our relationship with our limitations and constraints rather than eliminating all our limitations. So it wants us to develop sustainable approaches to personal and professional change that honour both our individual needs and collective responsibility, and using this energy to find joy and freedom within our current circumstances whilst working gradually towards making changes into the circumstances we want to be in. The shadow comes when we can rebel against authority for the sake of it, or accepting oppressive routines without questioning them. It can bring up power struggles or resistance to change in our routines. So we have to, be open to change as well as, keeping what we can from our traditions. And this Sabian symbol rules the lymph vessels of our knee, and it wants us to eliminate toxins while maintaining mobility and flexibility, doing knee exercises to bring balances and stability, doing rituals that help us find our freedom within existing commitments and transform our relationships with authority figures, So looking after our lymph health, our knee health, our circulation, having proper hydration and practices that increases our flexibility as well as our circulation, like gentle knee bends, drinking the right fluids, water and everything that you need, and lymphatic draining techniques, jumping on a rebounder and stuff like that can help you find your optimal function. The goal is to develop evolutionary wisdom, the ability to change routines from within whilst maintaining joy and freedom and collective responsibility. So yeah, that's the end of the Sabian analysis. I went in depth. So yeah. So now I'm just going to talk about the numerology and sacred geometry. So this eclipse happens on the 21st of September, so 2 and 1 equals 3. And the number 21 in numerology represents creative expression, communication and spiritual synthesis. And 21 is considered a master number of manifestation through creative collaboration, teamwork, and this aligns with the Virgo's eclipse needs, and with the sun and the moon falling in the 4th and the 5th degrees of Virgo, creating a 4-5 numerological bridge. 4 represents foundation, stability and practical manifestation, and 5 represents change, freedom and dynamic expression. So the 4-5 combination shows that this eclipse is about creating stable foundations, 4 that support dynamic growth, which is represented by the number 5, finding the perfect balance between security and expansion, and the geometric patterns created by the planetary aspects form a complex mandala of sacred geometry. The T-square with the midhaven creates a dynamic triangle of tension and resolution, finding solutions, and the grand trine forms a harmonious triangle of flowing energy. So these geometric relationships show that this eclipse provides both a necessary challenge and supportive flow for manifestation. So in terms of the karma, as I said at the very beginning, it's about reviewing and refinement, changing our plans, perfecting our relationship with service, duty, and practically applying our spiritual wisdom in real life, right? And the Saturn-Neptune opposition to the Sun and Moon during this eclipse shows we're completing a karmic cycle that began around 18 years ago when we first began learning to balance spiritual idealism and practical responsibility. So it asks us to ask ourselves, how have you learned to serve both your spiritual growth and practical obligations, your responsibilities, and what patterns of perfectionism and criticism, especially self-criticism and self-unforgiveness, need healing. And the retrograde planet, so this eclipse is particularly significant for souls who've been working on mastering these themes across multiple lifetimes, and the Virgo energy asks us to examine where we have been a perfectionist to the point of paralysis, overthinking, not making the changes that we need to, and where have you been so critical that you've prevented growth on the spiritual, financial, psychological and emotional levels, and the conjunction with Mercury retrograde shows that this eclipse is especially important for healers, teachers and communicators who are learning to share wisdom without spiritual superiority. It's a karmic graduation movement for those who have been learning to serve others through practical skill rather than spiritual bypassing. So ask yourself, how can you transform standards into a supportive routine rather than limited judgment? So in terms of the dream work integration, the Virgo eclipse creates ideal conditions for dream work focused on practical problem solving and subconscious organization. The conjunction with Mercury increases our ability to receive clear guidance through dreams whilst maintaining stability because of the earth elements that are helping to ground our mystical insights into practical real life application, and during this eclipse period, pay attention to dreams that offer solutions to practical problems, dreams that show you better ways to organize your life, or dreams that reveal hidden patterns in your daily routines. The Virgo energy shows that your subconscious is ready to reveal precise insights about improving efficiency, health and service, and the opposition of the Sun to Neptune in Pisces creates a perfect bridge between practical consciousness and mystical awareness. So use this eclipse to establish dream practices that serve both spiritual growth and practical improvement. And the dream journal that I told you to keep earlier can really help you keep track of your dreams and your day-to-day life things in general, and help you improve your daily routine and thought patterns and make you just feel more at peace with yourself too. So in terms of the manifestation techniques, as I said earlier, health and wellness routines that actually work, improve your routines, especially your day-to-day routines, increase practical skills that serve both your personal and collective needs, daily practices that support your long-term goals, organize environments that increase productivity and peace, service opportunities that align with your natural talents, release things that prevent your progress, like perfectionism, criticism that destroys rather than improves, chaos and disorganization that drain energy, health habits that don't serve your well-being, work that lacks meaning or purpose, excessive focus on flaws rather than improvement. Create detailed action plans with specific measurable steps, establish daily routines that support your larger goals, organize your physical environment to support your intentions, focus on incremental improvement rather than dramatic change, set up systems and routines that make success easier than failure. So if you set up the right daily habits, right, these can support you doing the things that you want to do, right? So in terms of how the eclipse, improves our relationships, it gives us opportunities to improve our relationships through practical service and clear communication. The conjunction with Mercury increases our ability to express needs and clearly listen to other people's needs with genuine understanding, whilst the earth energy grounds our relationships in practical reality rather than romantic fantasy. We can improve our daily routines and shared responsibilities in our relationships, communicate about our practical needs and expectations more clearly. Our service to each other through practical acts of love can become more in balance. We can heal criticism and perfectionism in our relationships and create create routines that support both individual growth and partnership harmony. In terms of our family dynamics, we can create better boundaries and more efficient ways of handling shared responsibilities. In terms of our friendships, it can help us, create friendships based on mutual service or bring more mutual service into our existing friendships and offer practical support rather than just entertainment or emotional processing. We can find ourselves more drawn to friends who share our commitment to growth and improvement. In terms of our professional relationships, it gives an opportunity for improving workplace communication, establishing clearer expectations and creating more efficient team working routines, focus on being genuinely helpful rather than being just right. So in terms of your career, it's really good to focus on skill, refinement, practical expertise and service-orientated career paths. It wants us to change gradually through demonstrated competence, being the boss, being to prove that you've got the skills and expertise rather than dramatic changes in terms of health and wellness, creating schedules and routines that are sustainable to look after any chronic health issues, making those practical lifestyle changes if you have chronic health issues, and integrating holistic approaches with conventional medicine. It supports practical spirituality in terms of spiritual development that increase our focus on our practical life rather than make us escape from it. Focus on meditation, prayer or spiritual study that makes you more effective in daily life rather than more detached from it. In terms of your financial growth, it wants us to focus on practical financial planning, budget changes and investment strategies based on careful analysis rather than speculation or emotional impulses. In terms of ways to look after our technology and digital detoxing, the Virgo eclipse emphasis on practical efficiency and mental clarity creates ideal conditions for optimizing our relationship with technology. Rather than the complete digital detox, focus on making technology serve your growth rather than distract you from it. So clean up files, photos and digital storage systems. Unsubscribe from content that doesn't serve your growth, organize apps and digital tools for maximum productivity, establish boundaries around social media and news consumption, use apps that support health, organization and skill development, establish digital routines that increase rather than replace human connection, focus on creating rather than just consuming digital content, use technologies to support your service to others. So in terms of, questions that can really help you home into this eclipse energy, you can ask yourself, what routines in my life need change or improvement? Where am I being a perfectionist to the point of paralysis, not taking any action, procrastination, not meeting your targets? How can I better serve others through my natural talents? What daily routines would support my long-term goals? Where am I being critical rather than constructive? What spiritual routines or beliefs need updating? How can I lead from wisdom rather than woundedness? What power dynamics in my life need transformation? How can I innovate whilst maintaining stability? What patterns from my past are ready for refinement, change and improvement? In terms of your relationship, how can I better communicate my needs and boundaries? Where am I being helpful versus enabling in relationships? What practical acts of service would strengthen my connections? How can I support others' growth without trying to fix them? In terms of your career, you can ask, how can my work better serve my needs and the needs of others? What skills need development to support my long-term goals? Where am I being a perfectionist in ways that prevent progress? How can I find more meaning in my daily responsibilities? Now I'm just going to give you a sample integration timeline. So between the 19th and the 23rd of September, you can set intentions and perform eclipse rituals, begin new health or organization routines, focus on practical problem solving and wisdom improvement, pay attention to dreams and intuitive insights. The first quarter, so October, November 25, refine routines based on initial results, adjust routines as needed for sustainability, focus on skill development and practical learning, notice resistant patterns and confront them constructively. The second quarter, December 25 to February 2026, deepen practices that are working well, let go of things that ain't serving you, eliminate them, modify them, focus on service opportunities and meaningful contribution, integrate lessons learned into daily life. The third quarter, March to May 2026, evaluate progress and celebrate improvements, shared skills and knowledge with others, focus on long-term sustainability and continued growth, and prepare for the next eclipse cycle. So now I'm going to give guidance for each of the 12 sun, moon and rising signs. So Aries, focus on refining your approach to your health and daily routines. Channel your natural leadership through practical service. Taurus, it's excellent eclipse for establishing sustainable system routines that support your values. Focus on practical applications of your natural talents. Gemini, it's perfect for organizing information and improving communication routines. Focus on quality over quantity in all areas. Cancer, it's a great eclipse for establishing home routines that support your nurturing nature. Focus on practical acts of care, especially self-care, right? Don't forget yourself. Leo, excellent for refining your creative expression and leadership style. Focus on serving others through your natural talents. Virgo, this is your eclipse. Focus on practical self-involvement and establishing routines that support your highest potential. Libra, perfect for improving your approach to relationships and teamwork. Focus on practical harmony rather than artificial peace. Scorpio, excellent eclipse for transforming daily routines and health habits. Focus on practical approaches to deep change. Sagittarius, great for refining your approach to learning and teaching. Focus on practical application of wisdom and knowledge. Capricorn, it's perfect for improving your approach to career and responsibility. Focus on sustainable system routines that support long-term goals. Aquarius, it's an excellent eclipse for refining your approach to newness and community service. Focus on practical applications of your ideals. And Pisces, it's great for establishing spiritual practices that increases rather than escape your practical life, and focus on grounded intuition. So in terms of eclipse safety and contradictions, physical safety, never look directly at the solar eclipse without proper protection. Be aware that eclipse energy can affect sensitive individuals more intensely. Pay attention to how eclipse affects your energy and just activities accordingly. Maintain regular health routines during the eclipse period. In terms of emotional safety, avoid making major decisions during the eclipse window if you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Establish support routines and systems that can help you process eclipse energy constructively. Focus on practical grounding activities if you feel spacey or ungrounded. Remember that eclipse effects can continue for up to 6 months. In terms of spiritual safety, avoid spiritual practices that emphasize dramatic transformation over, gradual slow growth. Focus on the practical application, the real life use of spiritual insights rather than just transcendent experiences, rather than this, oh look, I'm taking DMT and psychedelics, so look at me when I'm high. What about when you come down, right? Maintain connection to physical reality even whilst exploring spiritual dimensions. Use discernment, good BS vibes detection when receiving spiritual guidance. Focus on the practical application. Can I use this in my day-to-day life, In terms of the ethics and responsibility, this eclipse carries particular responsibility for those in service professions like healers, teachers and helpers of all kinds. The Virgo energy asks us to examine our motivations for service. Are we serving from genuine love and skill or a need to be needed? Are we empowering others rather than creating codependency? In terms of ethical considerations, serve others through practical help rather than spiritual superiority. Focus on empowerment rather than enabling in all relationships. Use your skills to genuinely improve situations rather than just be right. Maintain appropriate boundaries while offering genuine service. Remember that true service increases both giver and receiver. So to conclude, the solar eclipse in Virgo on the 21st of September represents a deep opportunity for practical transformation and, refining and changing the things that need to be refined through, refined manifestation. Being intentional with what we want to manifest, and unlike dramatic eclipses that shake our foundations, this earth sign eclipse asks us to improve our foundations through patient, precise work that serves both personal growth and collective good. The conjunction with Mercury increases our mental clarity and communication focus, whilst the Mutable retrograde planets ask us to refine patterns we've been working on across multiple cycles in this life and past lives. This isn't about starting over, it's about perfecting, refining, changing, adjusting what we've already begun, making it sustainable and saving our accumulated wisdom in practical ways. This eclipse asks us to examine our relationship with perfectionism, criticism and standards. Are we using these energies to support growth or prevent it? Are we being helpful or controlling? Are we serving others or serving our own need to be needed? Over the 6-month integration period, focus on implementing practical improvements that increase both your life and your ability to serve others. This eclipse rewards patience and care and practical wisdom. It's not about being perfect, it's about being genuinely useful, sustainably productive and authentically helpful. Remember that this eclipse happens during harvest season, when careful tending finally produces its fruit. What have you been cultivating, creating, developing that's ready to be harvested now? What system routines need refinement? What service can you offer that uses your natural talents while supporting collective well-being? The solar eclipse in Virgo reminds us that true spiritual growth happens through practical real-life application of our knowledge and our skills, right? And that real transformation happens through daily choice, and that the most deep next level service often comes through simple, practical acts of love and skill. And we can use this, and we should use this eclipse to create the practical foundation for our highest potential, focusing on systems and routines that support our growth, routines that increase our well-being, and skills that serve others authentically. The universe is asking you to not just be a dreamer, but be a skilled craftsperson, creator, builder of your own life. So yeah, that's the end of this very in-depth special on all things solar eclipse in Virgo, the 21st of September 2025. I'm Amani, your holistic, karmic, astrological life coach. Take care and see you next time.